When Activision launched the first Destiny back in 2014, they made some pretty big promises. The problem was, when the game came out, it wasn't what a lot of us were actually expecting, particularly in the story department. But don't you worry though, because this time Bungie say that Destiny 2 will have too much story.
Speaking to IGN, cinematic lead Matthew Ward discussed Destiny 2 and how the sequel's narrative is much improved from the first game. To explain how the narrative will be different, narrative lead Jason Harris said,
Destiny 1 had a heartbeat. It was a nice, methodical rhythm.
Whereas Harris says it's comparable to the heartbeat of someone working out at a gym.
It's like a machine gun.
Is that good though? Is that good?
Sounds like a heart attack is what it sounds like. Comparing everything to a machine gun, like that's a good thing. I know, right to bear arms and that shit, but it doesn't sound like a good thing to me. I don't know, maybe I'm too British. Harris adds, Bungie has spent a lot of time on world building, and he can't emphasise enough the stories he's ready to tell in Destiny 2. Ward continues the conversation saying the team found stories they wanted to tell, and using the feedback from Destiny 1, Bungie found there were certain characters and stories players gravitated towards. It's likely they're referring to the characters like Cade and Zavala, who, in the base game, were just NPCs, but in the expansions they were given much more characterization and exposure. Ward finishes his discussion saying, I hope people complain about how much story we have at the end of this. That'd be the Reddit thread I like to read. Too much damn story. More likely to be a Reddit thread saying, too much damn bullshit.
I don't know what that means. Are we going to be bored? Are we going to be sitting through a load of cutscenes?
I get bored.
That can be a bad thing.
I get bored. It's too much story.
What are you on
sometimes.
about, you fucking maniac? Just, sorry, that was uncalled for. This is no surprise, you know, obviously they're going to be saying that the story is going to be much better this time around because that was the biggest, #1 complaint of the first game. There was just no meaning to what you were doing. That's what it felt like. It just felt like activities, MMO-ish grind type stuff. You were just going out to grind, to kill enemies, to get your, complete missions and get points to get better stuff that would let you go and do more missions, and it just went on and on like that. So this is obviously a big thing for them, making sure that there's a nice filled out story this time around. And yeah, getting Nathan Fillion and the rest of the cast of Firefly to voice your actors is a good start, and hopefully they'll make good use of them.
You see this a lot, don't you? Game developers taking criticism and then trying to redress the balance in the next installment by like overcompensating in the opposite direction. I don't know if it's just me, but I would take a quality story over just a huge story, lots of stories, like quality over quantity any day of the week. Like, give me a good story. Don't emphasize how much story there is, because it might just be shit and boring.
They had no story, Destiny 1. It wasn't even a matter of story. It was just like, Peter Dinklage would go and everything would be, wow, this is amazing. This is incredible. This is unbelievable. Oh, okay, is it? Great. I'll just shoot these aliens. There was nothing. There was no context there. There's nothing that stuck you to the thread and that made you really care about who you were shooting in the face. You just didn't care about any of it because there's no thread there at all. So, like Gas says, it doesn't need too much story. It just needs a story that is communicated to you properly.
I think it sounds like they're doing it like out of a place of bitterness, like not enough seasoning.
Yeah.
They're putting hot sauce in it.
Yeah.
Going,
They've unscrewed it.
We're going to give you so much story. You're going to be crying for mercy.
So, with the developers being optimistic about being able to fix issues with the sequel, have their words and actions so far in hyping up this game had any impact on the game's perception? Well, according to the analysts at Superdata, Destiny 2 is actually forecasted to sell 4 million units in its first 3 months through digital sales alone. Superdata have said they expect Destiny 2 to sell 3 million units on the PC in just 3 months, which would make it the best-selling PC release since Overwatch last year. The research firm came to this conclusion because of a few key factors. First of all, they believe that because Destiny 2 is the first time the series has been released on PC, it will generate a considerable amount of interest on that platform and it'll drive the numbers up. Second is the fact that Destiny 2 will be available through the tried and true Battle.net launcher, which a good number of PC players use daily.
Superdata are also confident the game's targeted release window will help drive sales even further. On consoles, Destiny 2 launches on September the 6th, which is typically seen as the optimal time to release games because summer's over and everyone locks themselves inside to avoid winter. However, the PC version of Destiny 2 launches a month later in October, which again of course is good because it is usually when the holiday shopping season starts. So it's reasonable to assume a fair few people will be getting Destiny 2 as a gift, and consumers are usually more willing to pay out for games during these months, for example. Finally, there is the large player base that the first game has. In May 2016, Activision said that the original Destiny had around 13 30 million players. And of course, many people will have dropped the game since then, but the sequel might generate enough interest to bring them back into the loop.
So without a shadow of a doubt, putting the game on a completely new platform, putting it on the PC is going to help, isn't it? It's going to be a huge boost. People who might have been interested by the first one and couldn't play it because they only play games on PC, they're gonna want to get in on this. It's not like they're gonna have missed anything in the first one either. They're like wiping your characters and stuff from the first one. There's literally no holdover from the first one. Like we were saying earlier, there's basically no story there. It's all setup and setting. Like the setting was awesome. I loved it, right? But they didn't do anything with it. So as soon as you're familiar with what the game is and what the premise is, it's gonna be easy for loads of new players to jump in on.
I like the way that this research data company, Superdata, anticipate 4 million digital sales of the game in the first 3 years. How the f do they get them numbers?
That
like, you pull them out their arses or something?
It is pretty baffling. I don't know how they do it. I'm sure they've got a technique and a method and looking at historical data and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, they don't even have historical data for the PC platform, but they say they're going to sell 3 million copies, which is a lot of copies for a game that's never been on PC before. Like, how do they figure that? And they're assuming that more players will have bought it on PC than any other platform as well. So again, like, where the f are they getting these figures from?
The data companies are saying you're going to sell loads of this game. Things are looking up for it. Things are looking good. So hopefully it will be a successful game. One little side note about this though is just how many digital sales they're predicting. Like it's massive. Like we shouldn't ignore that. It's getting to the point where it's starting to kind of overlap the physical sales, which is incredible, and it's only in the last couple of years that it's really started to pick up.
Remember recently there was that article by the NPD group, the not proper data group as we call them, who were making up the figures until they released the actual figures of sales for the last few years, and it showed that digital sales were actually a lot bigger than they'd anticipated. It goes to show again how much digital sales are taking over physical sales these days, because it's absolutely huge.
So there you go, those are some positive noises about Destiny 2. There are thoughts. Let us know what you think about Destiny 2 down in the comments. Are you a PC player who's going to maybe pick this up for the first time? Let us know.
Speaking of the comments.
I think the segue's just done.
yeah.
And speaking of comments, let's take a look at what you were commenting on this week.
First up, commenting on the Ark Survival Evolved video, Samdroid Gamer says, I lost it when the developer of DayZ commented on this situation. Bruh, go work with your game. We didn't actually say he was the developer of DayZ, he was off of DayZ, because that's just a British way of saying connected to, because he's not actually doing it anymore. He's doing his own thing, and we've done a whole video about that and how that is ridiculous and stuff. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Who does Dean Hall think he is to be saying this kind of stuff? Good point.
Next up, Wesley Clark comments on the Skyforge video. You all are becoming like the BBB, Better Business Bureau for video games. It's awesome. It's a North American watchdog group that reviews companies and warns consumers while promoting marketplace trust. Well, yeah, that's kind of what we're all about, isn't it? Promoting good business practices in the games industry. So
we're markedly less professional than the BBB. But, you know, it gets the same kind of effect, maybe. Commenting on last week's Sunday show, Scott Was Taken says, I think somebody has a wee crush on Trisha Hirschberger. Do you think
that isn't fair? That isn't fair.
I don't know where we would have got that
A wee crush is like a child way of saying that she's fit as she's a nice looking girl. Like who in the right mind thinks otherwise?
Do you know Chobot, mate?
Chobot.
She doesn't even need the first name. It's the power of Chobot.
I'd like to see a Chobot Hirschberger,
the sexiest detective agency you've ever seen.
I was thinking more of like a wrestling match, you know, and like they have.
Wow.
Never mind. Let's not go there.
It's a hard bleep.
I was thinking more of a naked.
They were not naked. They're allowed.
The nakedness was implied. But
They're allowed it.
he's a good man. Really.
Next up on the Sunday show, Epic Warding comments, 2 guys, 1 rant.
I can't remember what that was about.
There's so many rants recently though, Mike.
Yeah.
I mean, they all blur into each other, so.
I feel like we tag team a lot of rants, to be honest. It's like, you know, there's a lot of emotions in this office.
I feel like that more recently, that you coming out yourself a little bit more, like I've drawn the rants out.
Maybe I'm just kind of, the optimism is just the more news I'm reading. Commenting on our Zenimax Gets Sued video. Noro Imusha says, Zenimax sounds like a boner pill that makes your dick drop off. Where does the drop off bit come from though?
Because it's maxed out so much. It's like so strong, it weighs your body down, it just falls off.
Fucking hell.
Next up on the ZeniMax video, MJC comments, pretty good gaming, bringing you all the news that's pretty bad about gaming. So news is though, isn't it? You don't hardly ever got good news.
When everything goes well, people don't talk about it. We do positive videos.
We are positive in our outlook, although we're very negative towards what goes on. We've got like a good outlook.
Optimistic. It's optimistic. It's be better. They should be better. That's what it's all about. Someone has to do this. There's God knows how many Let's Players and stuff out there, and giving you all this positivity about gaming. You can check them out if you want. Go for it. Go nuts. But someone has got to just make sure that everyone knows about the bad stuff that happens, and someone has to also go, that is bad. So we're just doing a service. You're welcome.
So that is it for this week's Saturday show. Let us know what you thought about our discussion on Destiny 2 down in the comments below. Like the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new around here. Check out some more of our content on your screen around about here. There's a Patreon link there if you want to support the channel, and we will see you again in the next video. Until then, bye for now.